On FB, is it Women and Her Works that I have to go to?
Yes.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Fresh from the Studio. Fresh from the Studio is our program where our artist members share what they're working on now with you. Today, we're going to hear from Houston-based Lillian Warren, Dallas-based Janet Narayan, and then Austin-based Juliet Whitsett. Each artist will have about 10 minutes to present. At their end of the presentations, we will open it up for questions and comments for all the artists, but feel free during their presentations to put your comments in the chat and we'll address them at the end. We're excited to hear from all three artists and we're going to begin with Lillian. So I'm going to stop sharing. And you're on mute. There we go.
Okay. I think I got it now. We're okay?
You got it.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank Women in Their Work for hosting this series. I really enjoyed watching other artists as they share their work, and now I'm delighted to be on this side of the screen. As Diana said, I'm a visual artist based in Houston. I currently show at Anya Tisch Gallery, and I've had solo shows at Lawndale, Galveston Art Center, Pearl Fincher Museum, and Aurora Picture Show. Now, I thought about simply focusing on my current series, but that would probably leave you with the impression that I'm a landscape painter, which is only partially true. So for fun, I decided to give you a whirlwind tour of the past 15 years. My subject matter really revolves around liminality, liminal spaces. And these can be transitional spaces and conditions, usually characterized by isolation and a certain sense of dislocation. They may be physical spaces, they may be emotional states. So this is the constant thread. And the other consistent item, I guess, is change and experimentation. My jumping off point is always the world around me. It's something I see in my reaction to it, something that strikes me as something fundamental about our time. And usually this fundamental something has been around me all the time. It's just been invisible. And then one day it smacks me in the face. So let me share my screen. Oops. So about 15 years ago, yikes. About 15 years ago, I started working on a series of landscapes. Now, the tradition of landscape painting is really based in the picturesque, the sublime, but my landscape paintings inverted that and investigate that very different space, that liminal space in our cities, anonymous, uncomfortable in between spaces. So always trying to navigate Zoom. Why is it not working? It's stuck. Let me try this again. I guess I had it up and running for long enough that I thought I was done. So sorry about that. So I did a lot of intersections and gas stations and corner stores. A lot of the paintings are multi-panel. And this I liked because it gave a different perspective on the same subject, as if maybe the viewer were driving by, or incorporates a bit of the passage of time and discontinuity of perception. I also often eliminated a lot of detail. For instance, the corporate logos are gone and the words and the signs are gone. And the idea of that was to increase the ambiguity, and so that the places become abstracted icons, reflect the real placelessness of a lot of today's cities. And then one fine day, I was driving home on our wonderful Texas interstate systems, and I just saw the traffic endlessly in front of me and endlessly behind me. And I thought, how wonderfully awful. It's the absolute perfect liminal space. It's always changing. It's never here or there. It's always in between. And I also saw some fascinating contradictions in that individually cars are kind of our avatars. We identify them with a sense of who we are, the kind of car we drive. We take pride in that, most of us. And also, but then you look at that as in mass, and they become incredibly anonymous and part of a crowd. Another contradiction I saw was that we value our cars. They give us a sense of freedom. But when you look at them in mass, they really become a metaphor for how hard it is to go against the flow, how hard it is to go against the norms of everyday life. Now, these paintings are also about paint. I often get the question, are they watercolor? Well, kind of, maybe. They're a fluid acrylic on Mylar, which does some wonderful pooling and abstraction. Here's a detail of a brake light in a car. And you can begin to see how much fun they were to paint and how much fun they can be to get up close to and investigate. And then one fine day, I had no particular intention of changing my focus, but I was in an airport waiting for a delayed flight, and I was completely withdrawn into myself, and suddenly I became aware of everybody else around me completely withdrawn in themselves, waiting, cocooned, isolated. And I really just, I couldn't forget that image and that feeling. And I realized it was a different manifestation of that same theme. And I wanted to capture that bizarre disconnection. Often these images have repeating figures, like the young lady in the striped dress who's in there twice, and there's a fellow in a plaid shirt. And that was because I wanted to emphasize that this couldn't possibly be a real time or a real place, a real event, but it's really about a disembodied state, somehow tied up in the passage of time and shifting perceptions. There's often a lot of cropping in the images. And here I wanted to emphasize that this crowd may go on forever. You can't see the edges of it. The essence of the series is really a kind of a waiting for Godot, waiting for something to happen, waiting for something better, something we might not recognize when we saw it. And it's a waiting that crowds out interaction and even introspection. And then one fine day, the people in my paintings woke up, and in a way they started dreaming. I started to embed these folks into a different kind of liminal space, one that was based on medieval manuscripts, which was something I studied in art history and dearly loved. And those ancient documents were just full of intricate patterns and abstracted figures. They had real mix mash of the sacred and the absurd. And the people in them were kings and heroes and saints. The parables or stories were always really well known to people who were reading these manuscripts. They were sacred stories that were embedded in a culture. And in mine, stories left up to us. Maybe an unknown story. This one happens to be titled The Parable of the Selfie. One of the differences, obviously, between the previous series, there's a lot more visual tension and a more aggressive dynamic, a very tight structure. The figures are very much confined within this ancient kind of archaic context, which can make for a sense of humor and kind of a certain strangeness. And then one not so fine day, COVID hit. And the world was in a liminal space, in a transition from what was normal to something that was terrifying and different. And I self-quarantined like everybody else. At first, I simply couldn't find it within myself to paint. And then I started painting in a bit of a time-honored tradition, the world around me as I saw from my window, in my case, really from my balcony. Little details I wouldn't have thought of painting before. Used really vertiginous views off the balcony to capture that sense of dislocation and being off balance that I felt. Feeling of being trapped and waiting. Hello. And that feeling of being so disconnected from everyone else. And then I started working not just from the balcony, but based on walks around the neighborhood or out running errands, and started from a slightly more normal perspective, but still kind of hearkening back to that very first series I showed, where it's about in-between spaces. And these are often composites of memory and spaces around my neighborhood. They're not necessarily a real place and time. They tend to be vaguely familiar. You feel like you've been there. They're not necessarily a place that anyone would want to linger. They're in between abandoned and occupied, in between public and private. So to wrap up, my real subject matter is that of the liminal space, transitional spaces and conditions, those in-between spaces. And my jumping off point is the world around me and my reaction to it, things that strike me as saying something very fundamental. So at this point, I am done. I'll more than happy to answer any questions that come up later, and I will pass the baton back to Diane, I guess.
Yeah, thank you so much. Next up, we have Juliet Whitsett.
Oops. Can you hear me? Yes, great. Right. So my name is Juliet Whitsitt, and I'm an artist, arts and environmental educator here in Austin, Texas. And let's see. So I want to talk to you a little bit about three basic things. My history. I like how Lillian went back. I'm also going to go back so you can understand where I am today. My current series, Threaten Texas, and then my current collaborative project that's community-based called The Really Small Museum. Let's see. Okay, going way back, I have a degree in art and exceptional education. So I started off as an art teacher, and then in the year 2000, I moved to Austin, Texas. And this is where I really began to be involved with environmental education. I taught gardening as a Vista volunteer, and then got a position at the Wildflower Center here in Austin, teaching about the importance of the native plants. Throughout this time, I always integrated the arts into my experience. And so wove that through my next stage in my career, where I was an international guide through Latin America and the South Pacific. And I directed an art, dance, and Spanish camp in Mexico for 2 years. So this is where, like, if this was a movie, there'd be like some montage music. I came back to Texas, went through and was successful with cancer treatment, had twin girls, became a stepmom, and got my master's in community-based arts education in a span of very short amount of time. So all of those life experiences really informed my career. And from that degree with community-based arts, I started partnerships and working with various organizations. I wrote 2 summers worth of art and environmental education programming for the Highline. I'm currently working with the Bullock with some pop-up programs. And so the through line really has been ecology, community, and creativity for me, working with schools and artists. So pre-pandemic, I was really focusing a lot on my own work, which was thinking about community in general, and our larger environmental community, looking at the over 1,300 species of greatest conservation needs in Texas, 1,300 just in Texas. So I started looking at those and teaching myself about it, and then creating art about and sharing. So this is a Swift Box, which is in northern Texas. Most recently, I did a commission for somebody who was retiring from Texas Parks and Wildlife, who had dedicated their lives to helping the Texas horned lizard. So I started that, and like Lillian, COVID really made a shift, and I started to have to do an experiment with new media, such as digital work, and it was mainly because I had my children at home. And so it was like a very large shift in some ways. The topic was the same, but it was a way for me to deep dive while I had my children here into something that was fascinating to me, which was looking at the colors and the shapes and doing a more minimal type of work with digital. And so the idea is that I look at crowdsourced images of endangered and threatened species of Texas, and I sample colors and create a digital palette. And from those palettes, then I create works only using the colors from the bodies of those species. So not only do I look at crowdsourced locations like iNaturalist, but I actually even call and email with scientists who are experts in these species, excuse me. And so what I find so fascinating is like every single set of colors from these species is just a stunning work. And like I said, I only use the colors from their bodies in these pieces. So this is just like for your own play. I wanted to share with you some of the color palettes that I've worked with. And there are 3 threatened Texas bird species within this. And I'd usually give you a little bit more time, but in your head, if you could just choose 1 or 2 or even 3 that you think might be bird species. And these are the ones, the zone-tailed hawk, the swallowtail kite, and the reddish egret. And these are some of the works that came from those species. So a lot of times it's a little bit surprising. The Texas fat mucket and the zone-tailed hawk have a very similar color palette, but from different species. So obviously through social media and then pop-up events, I'm able to talk about and teach about some of these species, about their lives and their habits. So one really exciting aspect for me right now is I am the artist in residence at Wild Basin Creative Research Center here in West Austin. And I'm doing some new things. That is actually the home of the endangered golden cheek warbler. And so is a lot of Central Texas. And I'm using this opportunity to deep dive into the color palettes of the 66 endangered species in Texas. And so I will be, I'm gathering all those palettes, and I'll be displaying them in early June and for a while. But I'm also experimenting with these audio works, something I'm calling Audio Wild. And so this is a site-based audio work that I have had the opportunity to interview these scientists. I'm like, I want to share this more. So this is my first real foray into a site-based work. I'm going to play just the intro of, I interviewed Daryl Hutchinson. He is a local expert on the endangered golden cheek warbler.
All golden cheek warblers are native Texans because all golden cheek warblers are born here. But then they spend the majority of their time in the highland pine oak woodlands of southern Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and a little bit of Nicaragua.
Okay, so the idea of that is that it's an audio work that's paired with a hike through the habitat of the species. So I'll be having my art opening on June 18th, and then the audio piece as well as all the palettes will be up for I think at least a month there. The next thing I have to talk about is something that I've been really enjoying. Is I created during the pandemic something called the Really Small Museum, and I co-created it with a friend, Marianne Newsom. And what we've done is created these small box works in our front yard. And so the art is our work. And then we have invited various artists to take up residency for a month and sometimes in between. Something that I found out just this morning, and I was like, oh, we'll have to add that in there, is that the Austin Chronicle voted us the teensiest art exhibit in Austin, the best. So that's like a small fun thing. But Marianne has the Banton, which is on Banton Street, and mine is called the 14th Corner Contemporary. And so far we've worked with artists Gable Kokinda, Carson Kokinda, Ann Armstrong, and Chris Kennedy. Josie Johnson, we have had some of these like quick in between exhibits. Josie she's a floral artist, and obviously these sorts of things, these sorts of installs wouldn't happen in most big museums, but they can happen in our front yard. And what's so amazing is that we're able to just be really flexible and fun. I have had a concert in my front yard with Jaime Ospina. I'm having conversations about art, and my neighbors are having conversations about art in our front yard like daily. I see people out there having, it's like a fresh way, an interesting way. And of course, as somebody who has their master's in community-based arts education, it's like so amazing for me to be able to do this and have and to be working with artists. Currently, I've got at the Banton, there's Amanda Watucky. She does origami, and she's gonna have a reception on May 24th. This next week, we have 2 receptions going on. So you can just come to Austin if you're not in Austin, and And Amanda's going to be doing some work. And then I've got Jenna Sweck who's going to be in my front yard on Thursday. And she's doing like an evolving painting where she takes it out, she paints on it, and then she puts it back in. But I think she's going to be actually painting live. Not sure how much time we have left. Yes, but whoops. Anyway, that is me. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. And I'll be open for questions and pass it on to our next speaker.
Thanks so much. Next up, we have Janet. Jeanette. Sorry, I'm stumbling here.
Janet, that's it. Okay, so hi, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Janet Narayan, just like Meg Ryan, just break it up that way, just Ryan. So I'm also an artist. I'm here residing in the northern suburbs of Dallas. And I want to thank Women in Her Works, Diane and Sophia for giving me this opportunity. And I'm in the company of Juliet and Lillian, two absolutely fascinating to hear about your art journey, so different from me, yet we are connected. Lillian, I just felt like all those cars standing in a group. We think each of our cars are different, but we're all together in this. So great feeling. So without much ado, let me share my screen. Do let me know if you cannot see it. Well, I cannot see it, so hold on. I moved to the Dallas area about 3 years back, just when the COVID was hitting. And that was fortunate and unfortunate. We have to make lemonades from bad lemons, right? That's what we've been told to do. So it gave me a time to just create an immense amount of inventory and do a lot of networking on the phone with people. So when things actually opened up, I had this great opportunity to actually showcase my work as often as I can. Just a little background, I'm a career banker. I'm an investment banker for 25 years, and my heritage is from India. We came here, I've lived and studied, raised my two boys for the last 35 years. So this is my beautiful grandbaby. So I'm a new grandmother. So that seems to be, I think all the joy that we see within us is how we express it. We have to see that joy to be able to express ourselves. So I take all that, and my mantra that I created for myself, I say I paint sometimes as I see it, other times as I imagine it, but always because I'm loving it. And the reason I say that is I don't want to restrict myself within the continuum of abstraction and representational work. I just feel that when I see something and I want to bring it, I just take that feeling. I just take that feeling and express myself. Sometimes it can be more representational, and sometimes it can be a lot more abstracted. So this particular piece, these are large pieces, about 5 feet by 4 feet. And to me, it is representational as well as abstracted. It is, without the two coming together, the yin yang, I don't think I could have completed this composition the way I wanted it. So that is the core theme of what I work with. I just take what I can see, put my feelings through it, and then I don't want to be bound by somebody telling whether it's going to be an abstract or is it going to be a representational. It is just going to be Janet, period. And that's how I want it. I don't want to budge from that. There are times it's going to be different, just like the way my moods are. But when you look at my body of work, you will know that all of them are cohesive. They're not randomly just out. Today I opened the internet, looked at some abstract and copied. Everything, every scene that I create, every landscape I create is someplace that I have been, I have photographed, and I have experienced it personally. And I'm going to, this is what I coined. I coined my work transitional expressionism. It's transitional because, like I told you before, it's neither abstract nor representational. It is a contemporary style, which is me, which is very organic. And it's expressionism because I am not trying to capture an image. I am only here to capture a feeling. And I feel colors are the reason. The colors are my medium to express my feeling. I'm happy, I'm elated, I'm joyful, I'm blissful. I'm in the Zen, any one of those things. That's just partial. When I have the image up there, when I paint something, I just hope to God it's only 50%. The other 50% is, what do you feel? What do you, the audience, feel? How do you experience it? And when those two experiences come together, your experience, when you look at the scene is, I feel like it's a new day. Or when I painted it, I just felt it was so peaceful sunset. When those two stories come together, that synergy that's emitting from that painting, when you look at it, is different from when the next person looks at it. And each one of them, I believe in that aura. Each time people look at it, it comes to me. It comes to me, it bounces off to you. And that's what I feel like when it is in your walls, in your decor, that you're going to have this beautiful feeling of joy, that synergy. Moving on to the next one. This is what I want to share with everybody. Can you guys see me? This is my backyard, or was my backyard 3 years back. There was a pond. Can you all see that? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. Okay, so this is a pond, and this was behind my house. I used to just love it. And I've taken 1,000 pictures over 13 years. I mean, morning, night, and day, my camera is clicked. But look at these 4 paintings. They're the same vision. They're the same backyard. And I have another 10 different paintings because that is the essence of my art. It's the expressive, that's the feeling, the mood. And from one, I have here many moods. You can see each one is different, and each one of you, when you are in the presence of these artwork, you're going to feel differently. So this is a very pink, and this is a joyful summer evening. This is a heavily abstracted, but I don't know. I see a lot of peace and, quiet and calm and happy and joyful. I see, children, laughing around here. So that is the core of what I paint. That is what I want as an artist for people to kind of feel. And this, as I keep talking, I'm going to just let this video keep going, and then I can stop it. Oopsie, sorry. And this is my process. Typically, like a lot of artists have this style where you have a mid-range color in the back, whether it is reds, oranges, and pinks. I know people love the sepia, but I'm all pink. So the glow comes, you just add the colors and keep adding. But the thing with me is I am not interested in the destination. I'm very confident that I know I have the tools. I know that when it comes, however the composition evolves, it will be beautiful because I have given it my all. Number one, I have the talent. I have the experience. So all I want is the journey. If I've already decided the journey, how I want it, it just keeps evolving. And that is how I know that the painting is complete. It might start off pink, turn blue, and end up yellow for all I care. But it will be perfect because that's the way I look. These are all my babies, and I give my all. That's all I can guarantee, that I give my all. I have the qualifications, the energy, and whatever is needed. And when it's finished, it is always going to be beautiful. It's going to be full of joy. So I'm just going to keep moving on to the next one. This is my studio. I had to fight with the HOA. I thought I could build a bigger place, but they just shut me down. And so I have a tough shed, about 10 by 13. And those are my little, this is my baby who is not with us anymore. He's an angel right now. This is my grandbaby. So, and if you see in the back, you see a little painting. That's something that I made when I was 12 years old. I don't know, can you see it? So that is my place. That's my place of Zen. That's my place of happiness. And my inspiration can be a simple tree on my street, or a complex scene where I'm traveling in Europe with architectural elements. It doesn't matter. I just walk across and I just love the myrtle crepes around Texas. I love the foliage here is so beautiful. The flora here is so amazing. The desert kind of, in Austin, I was there, those beautiful cactuses and things like that, they excite me. The myrtle crepe, the greenery around here, the lakes, each one of them is beautiful. What I wish to be known for is to be the artist who brings joy. People might have a lot of lofty ideals. I want to do this, I want to do that. Everything we do in life is to be joyful. If you just stop everything that we strive for in our life is to bring us joy. And all I want to do is, if my art, you're looking at my art, it's part of your decor, it should just bring you joy, like a kaleidoscope. Every time it should be different. So I don't know how many minutes am I on time? Okay, so that is my journey. And if you have any questions, do let me know. I did forget to mention, like, I know I had my MBA and I was what you call a banker. But in 2010, I stopped everything, went back and did my BFA from Indiana University. So since 2015, when I graduated, after, it was the best 5 years of my life. And so for the last 7 years, I'm not a hobbyist, not an amateur. I'm what we call a professional artist. This is my life. And I will continue till the day I can no more paint. Thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you.
Let me just get this. Is my screen gone, I hope? Screen share.
All right, y'all. So I'd like to open the floor up to questions. If anybody isn't comfortable unmuting and asking a question, feel free to put it in the chat and I'll ask it for you. And I'm gonna pin you guys right now, and then anybody can ask anything that they want.
I had a couple of questions. I was curious, Janek, in your work, what I interpreted as a kind of a pixelation of, it could also be kind of back to the pointillism of Impressionism. Was that a conscious thing? A pixelation, a digitization, or is that a misinterpretation?
That's a great question. Every time I have a show, that is a question people come and say, oh, the little blocks of colors. Honestly, it is not. I use a brush. I don't use any pixelation. And I've never been particularly the kind who liked pointillism so much. It was not something, organically, it feels right. And so the brush strokes, the brushes are the ones that tells the story. So if it is a flat brush, you will see more or geometric little brush strokes. And then if the brushes are a different, like a more round brush, they will have a different, but there is a repetitional, I repeat myself in a certain composition, but no, the short answer is I do not plan on any pointillism. I don't plan, I get started and then I just let the brushes and my feelings do the job. Thank you so much for asking.
And I had a question for Juliet. And it's based in my own work, especially the stuff that's landscape oriented. For me, and maybe for no one else, there's a hint of a commentary on ecology and environmentalism. It's our heavy footprint on our environment. And I wonder if the reason that way that you feel so free to just hit that head on is your education background, which in education, you don't come at something sidewise necessarily. You probably do it more, you just put it out there for discussion.
That's a really good question. I do feel like, or observation. So I'm in this space where I'm talking about endangered and threatened species. It's interesting because my entire educational background is art education and community-based arts education. Yet I happen to have a lot of experience with environmental education, and where I feel like how I approach it, part of it is, yes, I'm like, I see something, I want to talk about it. But I also, one of my favorite things is to reach out and to find experts to inform all of those things. So I do that with like the Really Small Museum. I love showcasing people's works. It seems like even when I was teaching in the schools, I would ask artists to come in and just share their works. And now, like having kind of scientists on my arms to help me really interpret what I'm intuiting or feeling or is helpful. So I feel like it's like a community movement forward that perhaps the seed was planted in my education background. That's a good observation. One of the things that I thought about with your most recent work, Lillian, was there's a new word that I learned from one of the artists that popped up at the museum, Chris Kennedy, and it's I don't know if I'm saying it right, ruderal. It's like rural ruderal, ruderal. And it's plant life that grows in the in-between, in those liminal spaces. And he's done research on how important that is for ecology. Like if you have those parking, and you actually painted a ton of those ruderal plants, and how, you know, bees visit those and pollinators visit those spaces, and they might have the tiniest flowers, but it is really important for life. It's not just truly an in-between. There's something happening the entire way, which is kind of what you're almost saying, like, as you're paying attention to those in-betweens. I just love your commentary on that. Have you spent any time with any of, like, are you viewing these things from a distance when you're when you're making the art, or do you go walk into some of those spaces?
I walk up fairly close up and personal, and I'm on the sidewalk, and then something will hit me in terms of maybe the way the light comes through the weeds, and then this outrageous brutalistic building, and then these houses that are a little kind of beat up, and that combination just sings for me. But sometimes I'm driving in my car at a red light and I'll see something and grab a picture as a reference. Other times I'm walking and I'm right there, kind of beat up, and that combination just sings for me. Sometimes I'm driving in my car at a red light and I'll see something and grab a picture as a reference. That's a serious delay.
Yeah.
I heard you in time. I
did too.
I don't know. I liked hearing it twice though.
A little spooky.
It's interesting. Yeah. Janek, I love your joy and your intentional joy in create. I can say that I don't always feel joy. A lot of times I'm like, what do I need to do? And I'm kind of like fighting with my work, and I want to take some of what, it's nice to see that it can be done. But
I think for that, as I'm becoming as my art becomes me and I become art, I think I have learned to take my art is an extension of me. And when you're young, you're just so idealistic. Life should be this, I should make this, 2.3 children, picket fence and all that. And then you just hit 50 and then some more. And then you just say, it is not working. It is not. So you've got to just step back. And I don't do it enough. I know my children keep saying, you need to just chill out and enjoy the journey more. But I think as I am feeling that, as I am imbuing that into my lifestyle, my art is reflecting it. It's not fussy. Like I was in France, we were in Tuscany, there were this, all the beautiful tea cafes outside. And, I was fussing over the chair is not looking right and it's not, drawn properly. I probably need to have a little scale or a ruler to fix it. And I said, nah, humbug. It's going to be a crooked chair and a crooked thing. And it turned out so beautiful because it was not with anything that was, forced. And all I could hear was this beautiful music in the cafe. That's what it needs to be to me. And you should hear things, you should smell the wind, you should experience the flowers. And that is the intention. Till that doesn't happen, I don't stop that painting. I layer it 25 times, 30 times.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lillian, I was noticing, especially with that car detail, how gorgeous all of those colors were, and like how you had really like had some imagination and presence with the reality. Can you talk more about like the color choices that you used?
Well, I will say on the traffic series in particular, since 99% of all cars are white, black, or tan, I used a fair amount of imagination because I didn't think that the paintings would be as interesting. So anytime there was a hint of a color in a reflected light, or maybe it was just the truck was, just it'd been around so long, it had a pink tint to the white, I would exaggerate and pull from those colors, and a little bit maybe the way Janek is doing in terms of you see a hint of a color and it speaks to you, and you start using it. Yikes, start using it more. So that was very intentional because, like Janek, and I'm sure like you, Juliet, I love painting and I love the process, and I want that to come through.
I had a question for Lillian. I mean, you said you use a Mylar paper. Is that what should be like a Yupo paper? Because I've done my alcohol inks on what they said it should be a non-porous surface.
Mhm.
So can you talk about your substrate that you use?
Mylar is very similar to Yupo. I've tried Yupo, it's not quite the same. And one of the things about Mylar, it's an industrial material. And so I buy it by the 100-yard roll and then cut it to whatever size I want. And I've got, they quit making it, which scared me. And so I went out and bought the entire supply in Houston. So I have a huge closet back there with enough Mylar to last me for the next decade.
That's
So I've been
good.
painting on it. I love the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very important that we get comfortable with the surface. Like, as a acrylic or oil painter, most people use canvas, and there were some other people who were using panels. I tried really hard to paint on those panels. Like, I'm like, what's wrong with me? It's the same thing, same brush. It's a smoother texture. Just couldn't pull it off. So I think we all have to zone in on this perfect marriage between the artist and the substrate. Make it.
I like the
Ju-
panel a lot, actually.
Yeah, I know.
like the smooth.
It
I like
looks so
heavy with
beautiful,
sharp. Mhm.
but I can't seem to wrap my brush around it for some reason.
Ah.
So Juliet, I had this wonderful, not a question, it's just you make the color palettes come out. It looks so fascinating. I know you make one that is actually the creature that you've seen or the animal or the plant, but have you just thought about it? Make one just an abstract by using all those colors, and one a real thing that is the creature, and then, just take all the colors and only use those colors and say, what can I come? When I looked at all of them, I'm like, I need to make abstracts of all that stuff that she's got.
Yes, I
So
have
it'd be
thought of that.
fascinating.
I feel like I want 5 of me.
True.
I want me to go hike all the time, and I want me to like make the work that. Anyway, yes, I have thought of doing that. And my next step, part of this is like the acrylic painting it was like slow, but I loved it. The digital drawing was faster, but not fast enough. There are 1,300 species in Texas. I'm like, how can I move fast? Like, I want to know more. Like, all of these species should be honored. And so for me, creating just the palettes right now is the next step of kind of speeding it up. Like, I was able to like get all of the colors within a couple of days by really focusing. And then, yes, at some point, I think that would be a lovely like next phase. And then I would like to actually try to mix the colors with paint. But I love the audio stuff too. I'm like really digging, talking to the scientists. And I should say that I worked with a musician to do the background music. His name is Michael Blake, and it was with Quebec Antique is his band. And just kind of like that feel. And there are just so many realms I would like to keep on exploring. And then, yeah. So the answer to your question is yes.
So Diane, I've been on several of these where you usually have some kind of interesting comment across all 3 or 4 artists. You've been so quiet.
I know the conversation has been so fascinating between the 3 of you. Like, I had questions about how you arrive at your palettes, and you guys asked it on your own. I was curious about, I know that photographs kind of popped up as a starting point for Janek's work. I was curious, Lillian, like, especially I was thinking about the traffic and the airports. Like, do you take photos, or do you just have an amazing memory of what traffic patterns are?
I wish I had the Picasso, perfect visual memory. No, I use my cell phone and take photographs by the millions, it feels like. And there's a lot of, I can't imagine my art process without, frankly, a computer and a camera. Because I do a lot of editing and simplifying and collaging and work through a lot of the compositional issues on the computer, and then print out some kind of composite that acts as a sketch.
I'm glad, Lillian, you mentioned the composite. Diane, just as an add-on, that's how I do. Actually, when
Okay.
my husband is driving, I will just hold the phone and just take multiple while he's driving. I'll just say, you need to go higher, go to up the hill. And so if my eye is seeing a lot, but my camera sees only little. Then I might like this scene, but that tree looks not too good. I like the tree around here. So I will go on the computer and good old Scotch tape, cut, paste, and maybe have a composite. And that will be the starting point after I just kind of start feeling that whole thing, the place that I was and how I felt, and will make a composite to create the composition, to get the starting point.
And that process is very similar to mine. It's processed through my emotions, my experience, what I see, and then I create a digital composite that begins to maybe kind of capture what I want ahead, and then I immerse myself in paint, and the thing continues to evolve.
And Juliet, your process, does it also have photography involved, or how do you kind of start
Not
composition?
So what's interesting with my work is that these are super rare species, and I have seen a handful of them. And the one that I used, I saw a whooping crane, and that one came from my photo, like the source image came from my photo. But what I do source, I guess it is composite in some ways. I look at citizen science like iNaturalist and eBird for images and for like, so the idea is that I'm trying to help create these like encounters with the rarest of the rare species in Texas. And most of us aren't going to be able to see them in the wild. I did see a couple of golden cheek warblers on site at Wild Basin, which was really amazing. I got to go out with the scientist and like burst through the bush with him legally to go and check out the habitat. But for the most part, I'm looking at people's captures
So
on
you're using
iNaturalist.
photographs, but you're using other people's photographs.
Other people's photographs. So iNaturalist is an incredible, if you ever like see something and want to know what it is, you can take a photo of it and you're actually helping science. You're helping kind of like map the world of ecology and species. And scientists actually look at these different sightings, and it helps to inform them because they can't be everywhere all the time. So you know, some photographs are better than others, but I will like take a number of different photographs that feel like I understand what the colors truly are after looking at a number of those photos. And then I'm able to I might pull from various photographs for the color palettes. So it is composite in some ways and very tech focused. Mm-hmm.
We had a comment from Carrie Reeder. She says, I don't have a question, but just wanted to comment that I really love the diverse perspectives and styles of these three artists. Thank you so much. Each presentation was so thoughtful, and I felt like I learned a lot about all of your work and very excited to see it in person. Any final comments before we wrap up?
No, just again, thank you, Women in Their Work, for doing this, because I've had a chance to see artists in different parts of Texas whose work I might not necessarily see. So it's a great series.
Same here. Thank you so much. And I know, you know, when you're on the same platform with three people, I would love to meet Lillian, Juliet, and actually, you know, experience their art real life, because you suddenly make the connection. If you're all connected, our art might look so different. Like, where is forget about 6 levels of separation. Where is this connection other than the fact that we are just artists? But I'll be surprised by the time this half an hour finished, I've already connected the dots with both of you. So much, you know, the palette, you know, Juliet's palette. I'm like, I need all of that to make, you know, different paintings. And Lillian just connected with you so much in so many different ways. Our work is so different. And that amazes me. I love that amazement. I like to be like a little child and be amazed every morning, like, how really this is possible? That's the reason, you know, the raison d'etre, like, you know, that's why you wake up and you feel good about yourself. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
I would like to echo a big thanks to Women in Their Work. I think that this program in particular is so wonderful to be able to have conversations and to hear conversations from artists from all around. And I just think it's super innovative. Even if I can't always participate, I like to go back to the playbacks as well. So really, really thank you for, and it's an honor. I felt like, really me? Wow. So thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you all for coming so much. I really enjoyed listening to all of y'all talk about everything that you've been doing. If anybody in the Zoom right now wants to say any upcoming shows or anything that they have, we'd be happy to share that. And I also want to remind everybody that the Talk About is coming up for Alexandra Robinson's show right now. That'll be on Saturday, this Saturday, the 21st at 11 a.m. There will be a performance and some panelists, and they'll just be discussing her work and identity and heritage.
Well, thanks again, and everyone have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.